Peter McKinnon released 2 variable ND filters with Polarpro a while back. There's one of them that's just a simple, clean VND. The other one has built-in diffusion, and it's called the Mist Edition. And over the past year, I've used them extensively, so today I'm going to share with you my opinion on them, whether they're worth it, and which one might be best for you. These are 2 very similar filters. Actually, the only real difference is the diffusion in the glass of the Mist Edition. So let's talk about all of the things that they have in common first. The build quality on all of Polarpro's products are incredible, but it seems like even more care went into these Peter McKinnon NDs. The twist action to adjust the density of the VND is super smooth, and there's this really subtle click and like a tiny bit of resistance whenever you hit each next density stop, and it's just so satisfying. The threads on the filter are well made, so they go on and off of my lenses without catching or getting stuck, which is great because low quality filters, that is a big issue. Also, the machined little like ridges on the edge of the filter give you a lot of good traction and grip when it comes to twisting on and off the lens. There's also a slight ridge around the outside of the glass element, which protects the glass if you decide to set it down like on a flat surface like that. Not that I would ever recommend you do that, but it's just a little extra layer of protection there. Speaking of protection, Polarpro has taken this super seriously with these filters by giving them this 360-degree hard case. An aluminum backplate screws on to protect the rear glass, and a rubber and plastic cap goes on to the front to protect it all the way around. This is obviously a great case for storing the filter, but it also allows you to mount it onto your lens without ever touching the glass with your fingers, which would risk smudging it. Once you've screwed on the VND, you can attach the backplate onto the front of this front element, and then those 2 things together act as your lens cap and stay with the filter whenever you've got it on the camera. That way you're never losing these 2 elements, and you can just pop them on and off whenever you want to remove the filter or place it back on. This is ingenious. The most important thing about a lens filter, though, is the image quality that you'll get out of it. As advertised with both the Mist and the Signature Edition, I saw 0 vignetting all the way down to 16mm on a full-frame camera, which is great. Although there is a negative, I did notice a slight color shift toward like a warm green when stopping anywhere further down than the base on both of them. Interestingly, this really only affects light coming from screens, though, which makes me believe that it's more of an issue with polarization in general and the science of polarizing light than it is with a defect or a malfunction of just their design when it comes to the filter. So if you're not filming screens, this is really not going to be an issue for your footage at all. You're not going to notice it. Other than that, the glass is super clear and sharp. Both filters come in 2 to 5 stop and 6 to 9 stop variations. For indoor or overcast outdoor situations, the 2 to 5 stop filter is really all you're going to need. But if you tend to shoot in brighter situations like snowy days with a lot of sun or the beach, you're going to want to go to the 6 to 9 stop. When I was filming in Colorado this winter, I only brought the 2 to 5 stop Signature, and I was kicking myself because to achieve proper exposure in those really bright scenarios, I had to crank my aperture all the way up to like f8 or f11. Of course, the best case scenario is having 1 filter of each stop range so that you're always prepared no matter what situation you find yourself in, but these are super expensive filters at like $250, so most of us are not going to be able to afford having both of them, and we're stuck with choosing one. The determination of which one is right for you really comes down to your use case. Speaking of use case, the question of the day is whether you should use the Signature Edition or the Mist Edition. The Mist Edition is good. It's got a very subtle mist diffusion, especially compared to Polarpro's FX mist filter. So even if you don't necessarily need diffusion for a certain shot, it's not gonna really ruin that footage. On the other hand, I personally don't like being locked into using diffusion all of the time. I prefer to use the Signature Edition like 95% of the time, because then I can just stack it with a specific mist filter, and it's not really going to give you a whole lot of vignetting to do that. I know the argument against stacking filters is vignetting, but in my experience, I don't experience much at all. So unless you're a wedding videographer that really truly uses mist all of the time, I just recommend getting the Signature Edition, stacking them together. I just prefer having the ability to turn off diffusion if I wanted to. Now that said, if you want something that looks maybe a little bit more professional than this, especially if you're a wedding videographer, you should check out this video where I review Polarpro's Recon VND or matte box combo that they also designed with Peter McKinnon.